Hi guys, it's Miss CL here with lesson 5.12. Let's go ahead and get started with your learning target. After this lesson, I will be able to solve percent problems using equations. Make sure you get that written at the top of your page, and then we'll move on to your think about it. Your think about it says, can you use an equation to solve the following problem? If so, solve using an equation and explain why. If not, explain why. Jane has 5 Skittles in her candy collection. The Skittles make up 10% of her candy collection. How many candies does she have in all? Go ahead and pause the video and see if you can work through this problem. Remember, make sure you use an equation. And if you can solve it with an equation, go ahead and solve, and explain why. And if not, explain why you can't solve it with an equation. Go ahead and pause the video and work on that. All right, guys, we're back. So let's go ahead and work on this problem together. Jane has 5 Skittles in her candy collection. The Skittles make up 10% of her candy collection. So that's 10% of the total. Okay, and then it asks how many candies does she have in all? All right, so let's go ahead and get started. The first thing we need to do is we need to represent our percentage as a fraction. So in order to do that, we put the number that's the percent, so 10, and we put it always over our denominator of 100. Okay, and we're going to set that equal to to 5, because 5 is the part here. So 5 over x, which is the total. We don't know what that is. We're going to have to figure that out. Okay. All right, now if we look, there's a horizontal relationship, meaning that I can go across, okay? So I can divide, and remember, we always want our arrows to be pointing to the variable and then reflected on the opposite side. So notice how the 100, the arrow's being pointed to the x, and then on the opposite side, the arrow's being pointed in the same direction as x, but it's pointed to the 5. So if we look, we can divide 10 by 2, and that gives us 5. If we do that to the top, we have to do it to the bottom. So 100 divided by 2, we know, equals 50. Okay? You also could have reduced this fraction to 5 over 50 by dividing by 2, which is basically what we did here, but instead we made it a vertical, and then we made this one a horizontal. So there are 50 pieces of candy in all. Hopefully that's what you got as your answer. I'm not going to do the explanation why since we talked about it, so we'll go ahead and move on. All right, key point. Can you guess what it is? A blank can be used to solve any blank problem. Okay, let's see. Change to pink. An equation can be used to solve any percent problem. All right, let's go ahead and do the interaction with the new material. Number 1. Aaron went to watch the Avengers at the movie theater. He noticed that 12 of the movie extras during one of the scenes were 5th grade teachers from Achievement First, and 36 of the movie extras were 6th grade teachers from Achievement First. There were 60 teachers in total. What percent of movie extras were teachers from Achievement First? Whew, that's a lot of words. So let's go ahead and go back and mark up our text so that we can better understand what's going on. So Aaron went to watch the Avengers game at the movie theater. Doesn't really help us with the math. He noticed that 12 of the movie extras, so 12 of the extras were 5th grade from Achievement First, and then 36 of the movie extras were 6th grade teachers. Then it says something about having 6 teachers in total. And it wants us to figure out what percent of movie extras were teachers from Achievement First, which we'll just start referring to as AF. All right, so let's start with our goal. Our goal is always what we underline when we use cubes, so let's go back and see what we underlined. It said, what percent of movie extras were teachers from Achievement First? So our goal is to find the percent of extras that are teachers from AF. Next thing we got to mark down is, what do we know? So this is where we want to look back at the things that we circled and boxed. So we know that 12 of these extras were 5th grade teachers. That's right here. And then we know that 36 of them are 6th grade. That's here. And then finally, we know that there are 60 teachers in total. So 60 total teachers. All right, what do we have to figure out? What is our unknown before we can move on to solving our goal? So for our unknown, the only thing we have to figure out is the total number of teachers that were from AF. Total number teachers from Achievement First, which again, we're just calling AF. All right, let's move on to our plan. Step 1. First thing we got to do is we got to figure out this unknown here. So we have to find the total number of AF teachers. Step 2. Well, we've got to create an equation. That's what our key point is wanting us to work with. So create an equation. Step 3. We got to determine if we have a vertical or horizontal relationship. And then last but not least, solve our goal where we have to find the percent. All right, let's get started with step 1. We have to find the total number of teachers that were from Achievement First. So if we go back to what we know that there were 12 that were from 5th grade and 36 that were from 6th grade. So if we add those up, go ahead and do that yourself while I do it. We get 48 teachers from Achievement First. Okay, so step 1 is done. Step 2, we have to create an equation. So for our equation, we're trying to figure out the percent of teachers that were from Achievement First. So instead, since we're trying to find our percent this time, the first part of our equation that we need to set up is the fraction that represents the number of teachers that were from Achievement First versus the total number of teachers. So we already figured out that there were 48 teachers that were specifically from Achievement First. We know that there were 60 teachers in total. So 60 is going to be our denominator because that's our total. And then the part, which is the number of teachers from Achievement First, goes on top, and that's 48. Okay, now we're going to set that up to equal something over 100. We'll put an X there for what we don't know. And it's over 100 because we're trying to find the percent. And the denominator for percent is always 100. So we have to see if we can find a relationship going across. Remember, arrows always point to the variable, okay, and then reflected on the opposite side. Is there anything I can do to 60 to get me to 100? No, I can't multiply 60 times anything and get 100 as an answer. 60 times 1 is 60. 60 times 2 is 120. So nothing's going to multiply to give us 100. So that means what we need to do is we need to take this original fraction we've got here and we've got to reduce it. So if I divide both of these numbers by 6, which is their GCF, the greatest common factor, okay, 48 divided by 6 is going to be 8. And then 60 divided by 6 is 10. Now we set it back up to equal something over 100. Okay, and now we have a horizontal relationship. I can multiply 10 times 10 to get to 100. So that means if I do it to the bottom, I'm also able to multiply the top by 10. 8 times 10 is 80. So our variable equals 80. Okay, so not only did we create our equation, which was the 48 over 60 equals x over 100, we also determined that we had a horizontal relationship because we were moving horizontally to go across. Actually, we had kind of a combination of the two. Because there was nothing we could do to go from 60 to 100, we had to find the relationship between 48 and 60. Therefore, dividing those by the same number made it a vertical. So we did a vertical relationship first. Then we did the horizontal by multiplying by 10 horizontally. Remember, the directions for vertical are up and down, and horizontal is side to side. Okay, so the last thing we need to do then is just write an answer statement. We know that x is 80 and 80 over 100 is equal to 80%. So let's go ahead and just write our answer statement. It says 80% of the movie extras were teachers from AF. All right, I know that was a lot at once, but remember you can always go back and watch the video again and pause it at certain times so you can kind of figure out what we're doing step by step. All right, let's go ahead and move on. Okay, I actually want to treat example number 2 like a check for understanding. So let's read it together and then I'll ask you to pause the video, try and do it on your own, and then we'll come back together and solve it. All right, so it says 55% of a number is 66. Which statements below are true? Select all that apply. Remember, when it says select all that apply, that's a clue that there might be more than one. Not always, but likely. All right, so 55% of a number is 66. Which statements below are true? A, the number is less than 66. B, the number is more than 66. C, the number is 36.3 or 36 3/10. Or D, the number is 120. Go ahead and pause the video and try it for yourself. All right, guys, first thing we want to do is let's mark up our text. We have 55% of a number is 66. So the number here is going to be our total. And then the 66 is our part. And 55%. So let's build our equation. 55%, I just put 55 over the denominator of 100. And then we set it up to equal, let's see, we said 66 was our part, so that's our numerator. And then our variable, our total, is x, because we don't know what that is yet. So we want our arrows to be going towards the variable. Now, is there anything that I can do with 55 that gets me to 66? No way. I cannot multiply 55 times anything to get 66. I can't divide 55 by anything to get to 66. So that means we have to take this original fraction and try and reduce that. So I'm going to reduce by dividing by 5. 5 is the greatest common factor for 55 and 100. So if I do 55 divided by 5, I'm left with 11. And then 100 divided by 5, I'm left with 20. So now let's set that back up to be equal to 66 over our variable x. Now if I look, I can create a relationship that's horizontal by multiplying 11 times 6 to get to 66. If I do it to the top, I've got to do it to the bottom. So 20 times 6 equals 120. So that means our variable, or our total, is 120, our number. So let's go back and look at our answer choices. The number is less than 66. Well, we just figured out the number was 120, so that's incorrect. The number is more than 66. Well, 120 is more than 66. The number is 36.3. Incorrect. And finally, the number is 120. D. That is correct. All right, hopefully you guys got B and D. That's it for us doing this together. You're going to go ahead and look at your criteria for success. Don't forget that I'm here for you during office hours, Monday through Friday, from 12 p.m. noon to 3 p.m. All right, guys, I hope you're doing well. I miss you, I love you, and we'll talk to you soon.